Attorney General Eric Holder has recently changed course on too big to jail, saying that none of the biggest banks are too big to jail.
I'll believe it when I see one in jail.
Exactly, and so, thank you. That effort has been directed at Credit Suisse for helping taxpayers to shelter their assets. But
No, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt the question. It is not to help taxpayers shelter their assets. It was to help people break the law. That's why they are in trouble, and we've got to call this out. I'm sorry.
No.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sorry.
But I guess my point is, I see this largely as a public relations move on the effort on the part of the Department of Justice. Do you think that this is just PR, or do you think that there's a real appetite to be going after American banks for real malfeasance?
You know, this has been an enormous frustration for me, and that is the lack of accountability all the way through. Damon and I worked together during the financial crisis, and I would say if there was a single issue we pushed the hardest on, it was in return for the tens of billions of dollars that were shoveled in to these big financial institutions, a little accountability. Accountability on where the money went, accountability on the changes that the financial institutions would make, accountability that how they would spend that money in ways to help the American economy. And what we got, and I want to be clear, this is under both administrations, was nothing out of that. This is one more way in which the playing field is tilted. Wall Street has been rebuilt. Has anyone looked at the Dow Jones? But the rest of the economy, not so much. And the Glass-Steagall bill is a great example of that. So you all remember the Glass-Steagall bill coming out of the Great Depression, that we put in place a rule that said, in effect, banking should be boring. That's the part of financial services that should be really boring. Your checking account, your savings account, it has to be walled off from the kinds of risk-taking and investment that happens with hedge funds and on Wall Street and other kinds of money management. Put that in place. And not surprisingly, the financial institutions, the big ones, didn't like it. And they kept pecking at the wall, right? And throughout the 80s and the 90s, they'd get one hole in it and then another hole in it and another hole. And then in the late 1990s, it was repealed, Glass-Steagall. So the idea was, in effect, anything goes. The big financial institutions can be in any financial services they want to be. And of course, we all know what happened. This is happening simultaneously with the moment that the financial institutions had figured out that they could make incredible profits by selling people mortgages that people would ultimately not be able to pay off. It was like selling grenades with the pins already pulled out. It's going to be okay for a while, but then that thing is going to go off. And of course, that's what happened. They also packaged up those grenades and sent them out into the marketplace generally. They were purchased by your pension funds. They were purchased by townships and municipalities trying to finance themselves. So both of these have gone on at the same time. Big financial institutions have taken on enormous risk. Glass-Steagall is gone. They're making great profits right up until the grenades start exploding in huge numbers and the entire economy crashes. So what happens at that point? At that point, the federal government says, we're going to come in and we're not going to let this economy go back to the Stone Age, but we're going to put in lots of money to help support this economy. This was the $700 billion TARP. But the Treasury Department, under both administrations, starts shoveling that money out on a no-strings-attached basis. And when you shovel the money out on a no-strings-attached basis, you have just created too big to fail. Just so you understand, when I say no-strings-attached basis, I come out of a background of teaching bankruptcy law for many years. Chapter 11, when new money comes in, which it often does in failing businesses, it's always on terms that say the old debt gets wiped out, the shareholders get wiped out, the old debt takes a haircut, the management gets fired. That's usually the deal, and they got to come up with a new business plan. That's how you keep discipline in the system, and that's how you make sure the new money will be protected, that they really are going to do something different going forward. This did not happen with the big financial institutions. So right now, what we've got is I've got a bill pending in the United States Senate. My co-sponsor is John McCain and Maria Cantwell from Washington, Angus King, an independent from Maine. And we propose instituting a 21st century Glass-Steagall bill. I say, yep. It would have two effects. One would be just simply one of size, breaking up the largest, because those are the only ones who will be affected by this. It makes them smaller by breaking them apart. And the second is that it makes certain that the depository part of banking, your savings account, your checking account, the parts we must protect at all costs, are very low-risk operations. So I heard somebody ask the question, why? Why was there no accountability for the largest financial institutions? Why can we not move Glass-Steagall right now? Why is it that we have heard one after another of the largest financial institutions in this country admit to breaking the law? And that's what we have to call it, not difficulties in a regulatory apparatus. Breaking the law, laundering drug money, violating sanctions against foreign countries like Iran, the latest, helping people cheat on their taxes by hiding money in foreign countries. And yet, not only does no one go to jail, no one even goes to trial. So this is about accountability, both of the large financial institutions, but accountability for our government, for our regulators, to remind them they don't work for the big financial institutions, they work for us. They work for us.
Undercurrent under the surface makes the mainstream get so nervous. It's time for purpose, for news to serve us, not with propaganda they use to hurt